Hello everyone and welcome you all in my video tutorial. This video is for class 10th chapter number 2nd Internet Services part 3. As we already discussed in previous chapters that internet provides so many services, and in previous video we discussed about search engine, guidelines or tips to make our search better and easier and faster. Next we discuss finding people on internet, FTP protocol, FTP server, FTP client, and uploading and downloading files on FTP server. Now in this video I am going to discuss other file transfer protocol services. The first protocol is SSH, stand for Secure Socket Shell. As we all know, data processing is an integral part of any networking system. In a client-server architecture, SSH protocol, also known as Secure Socket Shell protocol, is used for securing data over an unsecured network. Dear student, before this also I told you to secure data over a network we use some secure protocols, and SSH Secure Socket Shell is one of the protocol which provide security to our data on a network. SSH protocol transfer files over a network by using the service of other associated security protocol like SFTP and SCP. SFTP stands for Simple File or Secure File Transfer Protocol, and Secure Socket Shell was designed as a replacement for Telnet and Remote Shell protocol. Dear student, this protocol is designed as a replacement of Telnet and Remote Shell protocols. Why? Because these are not secure, very much secure. That is why SSH Secure Socket Shell protocol replaced them. These protocols did not use any cryptography technology for data transferring and hence were not secured. Cryptography technique means whenever we transfer any data, for security we want to encrypt that data. Encryption means a code that is not easily understandable by human, so that if we transfer our data in this form, then our data is going to be secured. So the responsibility of this protocol is to secure our data. Next, if we talk about the importance of SSH protocol, so before transferring data between client and host means server, the SSH calls upon the SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol, to authenticate both the server and the client machine. It means before transferring the data, SSH protocol authenticate means it will check whether the client and server are authenticated or not. It means genuine or not. And whatever data transmit between them, they are authenticated or not by using user ID and password. So that is the first most important part of Secure Socket Shell. Next point, once the authentication process gets over, the SFTP protocol works on to the set of secure channel between the client and host computer by establishing a secure connection, and then only the data transmission is initiated. It means after authentication, whatever data transferred from client to server or server to client, that all are transmit through a secure channel. This is happened due to security. Next importance is SFTP protocol is integrity of data using encryption and cryptography hash function technique. It means to cryptography or encrypt your data. This protocol uses hash technique. By this technique, SSH protocol encrypt the transmitted data, and that encrypted data as it reaches to the destination part, again it decrypt. It means between the network no one can access that data. If by mistake or if accidentally if someone accesses that data, then it is not easy to decode that particular data. So that is why we use this secure socket cell protocol to provide more security to our data. Next protocol that we have is SCP, Secure Copy Protocol. Protocol play a significant role in transferring data and in maintaining the confidentiality of data. SCP, Secure Copy, is one such protocol that helps in moving files between two connected machines over a network in an encrypted form. So as we discussed, Secure Copy Protocol responsibility is to store the encrypted data, and as that particular encrypted data reaches to the destination part, again it decrypts the secure data that is secured by the SCP protocol. Next protocol that we have is SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol. Both FTP and SFTP allow files and data transfer over secure network. In spite of this similarity, the SFTP stands apart from the FTP in terms of data security. The FTP sends data commands over a network in text form. Even important credentials like user ID and password are sent in text form. It means whenever we access any secure page, so for that we need to provide user ID and password. And if that user ID and password sent in the form of text, then that particular data or information is not secure. So that is why the secure file transfer protocol responsibility is to encrypt that particular credential like user ID and password in binary form, thereby making it secure as prevents authorized access during operation. It means no one can access that particular user ID and password whenever that user ID and password traveling through network, because of this secure file transfer protocol. Next protocol that we have is SMTP, stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Is the most common protocol used for transferring email between two or more servers. It generally sends the message from a mail client to a mail server. Apart from transferring email, SMTP also provides notification regarding the incoming mail. However, it cannot transmit picture, sound or movies. It means SMTP protocols only responsible to transferring email between two or more servers. Apart from this, it not transfer any kind of data like audio, video, pictures, movie. It is capable only sending text messages. It has a limited ability to queue the message at the receiver's end. Hence, we need some other protocol for email retrieval. So dear student, don't be confused. SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is responsible to transferring email between two or more servers. And apart from text message, it cannot carry any kind of audio, video, pictures, sound or movies. To send a file like audio, video, message, we need to use another protocols. Next protocol that we have is POP3, Post Office Protocol version 3. POP3 or Post Office Protocol 3 is another commonly used email protocol. It helps to retrieve mail from remote web server using a local client. Here I want to tell you remote web server, or what is the meaning of this remote web server. So dear student, remote web server means a machine, a centralized machine that is not with us, that is far away from us. It means as a client we access that particular machine from any other location. That kind of machine we call it remote machine. And one thing more, all POP3 mail servers have a unique address provided by email or email service providers. Dear student, to effectively use POP3 protocol with the email client program like MS Outlook or any other application, the address of mail server must be configured correctly. It means whatever email address is there, that you have to configure correctly, and after configuring you will also need to input the user ID and password to successfully retrieve emails from the remote web server. If you not entered correct user ID and password, then it will not allow you to access particular mail from the web server. Next topic that I am going to discuss is Telnet. Telnet is just like HTTP and TCP IP protocols. Telnet protocol that is used for accessing a remote computer. Just now I told you what is remote computer. Remote computer or remote machine, a machine that is not with us, that is far away from us. So don't forget, dear student, if you have find remote computer or remote server, so don't be confused. Next is, a network may consist of different networks composed of multiple computers using a different kind of hardware and operating systems. If you want to configure Telnet in your machine, so for that you need to follow few steps. Firstly, you need to click on Start button, then go to Control Panel. From Control Panel, click on Programs folder. Next, select Turn Windows feature on or off. When you click on Programs folder, you may get this option. After getting this option, you need to select Telnet Client. After selecting Telnet Client, then click on OK button. Your machine automatically configure the Telnet client and you are able to access the Telnet server remote machine from your computer. So this is the small steps you need to follow if you want to access Telnet from your machine. Next, I am going to discuss web services. So as we discussed in this chapter various kind of web services, in the same sequence, web services provide a facility like chat. What is chat? Let me tell you this. As you all know, it's an online conversation and it is more personalized written email in a time-consuming process as compared to a way of communication in which user can instantly send messages and the forth to each other. It means through online conversation, user can send message and at the same time user able to receive that message. In the email, one has typed email address or particular subject of mail, but in chatting, one can write without caring about any syntax. It means here you are not restricted, you need to follow this kind of syntax, but in mail we must have to follow a syntax like there we have so many fields like to, from, cc, bcc, subject line, emails, attachment button, but here we don't have any kind of syntax, so you are free to write your message as you want. Next, if we discuss about types of chat, so we have some types also for chatting. First one is IM, instant messaging. Instant messaging is like a private chat room where both the user must be online at the same time. It means sender and receiver, both users must be online at the same time. It is a communication service over the internet that allow transmission of text-based messages from sender to receiver instantly. Like online chat, instant messaging offer two-way messaging or two-way message exchange in real time. The only difference between IM, instant messaging, and online chat is that in instant messaging the communication takes place between two known users and includes only those people whom the user has invited, whereas in online chatting or in online chat could happen between unknown users. Some popular IM services that we are using nowadays are Google Hangouts, Windows Live Messenger, IMO, Skype IM, etc. Next type that we have is IRC, Internet Relay Chat. IRC allow people to communicate with each other in real time through text-based messages, like older chat system. IRC is not limited to just two participants. It's similarly designed for group communication. In discussion forum called channels, but also allow one-to-one communication via private message as well as chat and data transfer, including file sharing. A user can start a new chat group or join an already existing group. It means IRC, Internet Relay Chat, is not limited with two participants. If you want to create your own group, then by using IRC you may create your own group, or if you want to join a already existing group, so easily you can join. IRC, Internet Relay Chat, works on client server model. To connect with IRC user, you need to install an IRC client program on your computer. This client program that runs on your computer transfer your message to other IRC clients via IRC server. So that is why I am telling you this totally based on client server architecture. It means IRC server forward the messages coming from IRC client to another IRC client, and it is not limited. If you want to create your own group, though by using this you can create your own group, or you want to join any existing group, so for this, for sending a request to IRC server, you may join that existing group. The popular client include IRC chat softwares like MIRC for Windows, and we have for Mac OS also and for Unix also. IRC2 for Unix and IRCLE for Mac OS. So we have application for CUI based operating system like Unix or Mac, and we have softwares for GUI based operating system like Windows. Next, I'm going to discuss the next service that is provided by internet or web is video conferencing. Dear student, you know video conferencing is the most popular way to establish communication face to face, and a video conference can be considered as phone call with pictures that allow multiple people sitting at geographically different locations to communicate with each other by exchanging video and audio at the same time. It involves the user of a camera known as webcam and a microphone at the end of each participant to capture video and audio data in real time. Images and sounds are transmitted through the internet and delivered to other participants. These days, it is also possible to connect a video conference using smartphone and tablets. A video conferencing can be point to point, whereas two individuals are engaged in a conversation, or it can be multiple point that involves three or more participants at the same time. It means you are able to establish communication, video conferencing point to point or multiple also. Multiple in the sense you may establish video conferencing through more than one people or with a group, or if you want to establish communication one to one, then this also possible by using various kind of video conferencing application software like Skype, Adobe Connect, IMO, and apart from this so many services that are available on the internet. Next service that we have is e-learning. E-learning means electronic learning. It refers to a wide range of applications and processes designed to provide guidance and deliver information to students, faculties, or employees of the companies through the electronic means. Not only companies, in any field wherever we need e-learning. The quality of electronic training depends primarily on content and its delivery. It is also provide facility to download study material from various universities, school, college, or any organization. This way, the internet acts as global library for us. The study material can contain various type of media like audio, video, text, virtual environments, animations, etc. Users have the advantage of learning in three-dimensional environment that provide a more interactive and interesting experience. Next, one thing more I want to tell you, e-learning can implemented using an internet connection, a network, an internet or a storage disk. Without these all components, we are not able to use this service, that is e-learning. If you want to use this service, so for that you must have an internet connection and a network internet or a storage disk. And in short, we can say that you have a device that enables these all facilities. Next thing that I am going to discuss is the advantages of e-learning. As you all know, we have so many advantages of e-learning, like it is cost effective. E-learning saves time, money. With online learning, your learner can access content whenever or from anywhere whenever they want. Next is e-learning leads the better retention, or e-learning provides easy update for the users, and it is flexible also. E-learning is scalable. E-learning offer personalization, and many more advantages are there of e-learning. Next topic that I am going to discuss is online banking. Online banking or e-banking is also provide a way through which a user can easily use or easily do their banking by sitting at home. Online banking or e-banking, as you all know, it stands for electronic banking. It is the way of performing bank transaction using the internet. A customer can do so many things by using e-banking. For example, a customer or user can check their account, make a FD fixed deposit, transfer the money, apply for loan, and many more things that a user can do by sitting their home with this service, that is e-banking. These transactions can be done from any part of the world if you have an internet connection on your computer or mobile. For e-banking, nowadays we have so many applications. Apart from application, if you want to use these all services, so for that firstly you need to open that bank website. After opening bank website, you need to enter your user ID or username and password that is provided from bank. After that, you are able, after completing the authentication, that particular application or site allow you to do the transaction, various kind of transaction. And these all secure also. Secure in the sense, if you are using online banking or e-banking, so whatever transactions are there, that bank's responsibility is to keep it secure from hackers or any other frauders. Next, if we discuss about the advantage of internet banking, so we have so many advantages. Like, it is simple to open and use an internet banking account. Nowadays, dear student, you know, so many mobile applications are there for internet banking or e-banking. And our government also launched some UPIs that are fully secured. Next is, it reduces time to wait in a queue of bank branch. That is the biggest advantage. You don't need to go to the bank for doing your transaction, checking your bank, transferring money to another account. So for that you don't need to go to bank. From your home only you can do these all things by using internet banking or e-banking. The person bank account can be accessed any time of the day. It means that particular application is available 24/7. Next advantage is worldwide web connectivity of the website of banks. It means if you don't want to use applications, then from website also you can access these all services. Next is, it is easier to keep a regular check on the account balance. If you want to check your account balance at any time, it means 24/7, it is available or it is easy to check. For this you don't need to go bank. So these are all the things that we discuss in this video. Hope you will understood. Next services or next remaining services we continue in next video. Thank you everyone.